I appreciate everyone coming out for the new mayor's initiative, as well as coming to support my restaurant, which is His and Hers. I'm a returning citizen. I also contract with Department of Small Local Business, Department of Employment Services, the One's Office, and part of my objective or vision is to be able to provide job opportunities for up-and-coming returning citizens, as well as the LGBTQ population, and returning citizens, as well as youth at risk and others. At this time, with Department of Small Local Businesses, I have approximately 43 employees. In the restaurant, His and Hers, I have 19 employees. With the One's Office, I have approximately 8 employees, which we run a curriculum at Anacostia High School, which is the culinary arts program, and we do a manicure and pedicure program as well. And we also add to that is a customer service and a workforce development and a hospitality component. And at this time, I would like to introduce our wonderful mayor and let her come up and do the initiative for her up and coming.
Thank you, Paul. Good to see you. Well, good afternoon, everybody. I want to thank you for your patience this morning, and thank you for being with us today. And I want to thank Paul for hosting us at His and Hers. Give him a big round of applause. And I want to add to that and thank you for your partnership and working with our neighbors who are coming back home to make sure that everyone is taking full advantage of all of the programs and services that we offer. We know, too, that you partner with us at Anacostia and Safe Passage, and that is a critical part of how we get our kids safely back as well. It is also a good day to highlight that April is National Reentry Month. In the district, many people from around the country look at our programs. Lamont tells me this frequently, and say just how much that we are able to do for a lot of people to make sure people have a smooth reentry home. So we have been talking about our budget process for the last several weeks. The council is, of course, considering our $19.5 billion balanced budget, which included a $251 million investment in a new jail, a jail that is focused on rehabilitation, treatment, and reentry. And we're very proud that we have worked with the community to come up with that proposal. And as part of that, we're supporting people when they come home so that they will have a runway. We know that people want to be able to support themselves and be a benefit to their families. And to do that, they need to find a job and housing and repair relationships with people and family to be successful. Another thing that we're doing to help keep people safe in the community is zeroing in on the relatively small number of people who we believe are at the highest risk of getting involved in gun violence. So we have talked previously about the $1.7 million that we will invest in what we think is a missing link in our approach, and that is a life coach who will help our violence intervention specialists provide intensive supports to this group, as I mentioned, a group that fluctuates between 200 and 250 residents. And we have gathered this list based on our own data and based on conversations with the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council and national experts. But we're not waiting, as you can imagine. We need to stop the gun violence that we're seeing in our city before anyone else is killed or gets killed themselves. So we, of course, have gotten the ball rolling by connecting each identified individual we refer to them as people of promise with roving leaders and violence interrupters. In addition to that, I have assigned members of my cabinet to work directly with teams to make sure that the people we're working with are getting the services that their situations demand. About 20 members of my cabinet are a part of this initial triaging effort. They will bring with them a vast set of skills and knowledge, and most importantly, the know-how of getting things done in DC government. So we value accountability in my administration, and people who work for me know that they have to report what they're doing to me and to the community. And it is this structure of increased accountability, this approach with teams that we know will help make a difference and bend the curve of violence we're experiencing in our city. I am very pleased that Delano Hunter is serving as the interim director of the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, in addition to his responsibilities leading the best parks department in the nation. And I'm going to turn to Delano to say a little bit more about how our budget proposal will help keep DC safe.
Thank you, Mayor Bowser, and good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Delano Hunter, and I'm proud to serve as the interim director of the ONE's office and the director at the DC Department of Parks and Recreation. As Mayor Bowser has stated, the ONE's office, in coordination with the Office of the Deputy Mayor for Public Safety and Justice and the Office of Gun Violence Prevention, has launched an interagency strategy to service individuals at high risk of involvement in gun violence. You heard the mayor refer to these individuals as people of promise, and that's intentional because the heart of this work is centering the humanity and promise of every member of our community. The primary goal of this interagency strategy is to disrupt the cycle of violence, poverty, and incarceration by relentlessly outreaching to those individuals and expeditiously connecting them to supports and services. The first group of people of promise that will receive outreach were identified through a gun violence problem analysis conducted by the National Institute for Criminal Justice Reform in close coordination under the leadership of Director Harley Harper's Office of Gun Violence Prevention. Many of these individuals have a lengthy history with the criminal legal system, including prior juvenile supervision or prior adult incarceration or supervision. And because of their past involvement in community violence, many have survived a violent injury and suffered from the resulting emotional trauma. At this time, we have assigned roughly 200 people of promise to a support team, which includes the following: a credible contact from the ONE's office, the Department of Parks and Recreation, the Department of Youth Rehabilitation Services, or the Department of Corrections, and a pathfinder from the ONE's office who is responsible for assisting credible contacts with service navigation as well as tracking outreach and service delivery efforts. Each of these teams have been assigned to a member of the mayor's cabinet who will provide expert guidance in navigating DC government and troubleshooting complex service needs and barriers. This added layer of support reinforces that all of government must play a role in supporting public safety. Underlying the work of these teams is a new referral structure that was built with client readiness in mind. We're asking people of promise to see a different kind of future for themselves, and in return, we are committed to providing the services they need to overcome the hurt and trauma of their past. Whether they need job training, subsidized employment, continuing education, behavioral health, nutrition, housing, childcare, peacemaking, or other healthcare services, our interagency team stands ready to deliver. This interagency strategy is all about translating the knowledge into practical action steps to transform and save lives. Thank you.
So I'm happy now to introduce our Director of the Mayor's Office on Returning Citizens, Director Carey.
Good evening. My name is Lamont Curry, Director of the Mayor's Office on Returning Citizens Affairs. And happy Reentry Second Chance Month. So with the leadership and guidance and vision of our Mayor Bowser, my office, the Mayor's Office on Return to Citizens Affairs, our primary focus is to connect to individuals that are returning home from prison and connecting them to resources and opportunities that's going to put them on the pathway to the middle class. And so what this looks like. So generally when an individual comes home, some of the first things that they need is Social Security card and birth certificate. And we help connect them to those opportunities with a collaboration of government agencies such as Department of Employment Services and nonprofit organizations like NARC. So with these collaborations, we're able to connect individuals once they get their IDs and birth certificates being able to get driver's license, right? And then if they're in need of employment, we connect them to education, because some individuals are still being released without high school diploma, and we know if we want to put them on a career path that we have to connect them to educational opportunities so that we can also then transfer them over to employment, job training that is going to increase their skill set and then connect them to employment opportunities. So in addition to that, our primary goal is not just how we connect the individual, but it's their whole household that has to move forward. And so with the progressive thinking and vision of our mayor with this new proposed budget, this allows other DC organizations for us to also refer family members to them so they can connect to the services that they need, and so the whole household be moving forward. So we want to multiply individuals as Mr. Paul Weinstock, who are deserving of a real second chance. And in the district, that is what they receive, a real second chance. And you can come and visit us any day, 5 days a week on MLK 2100, Suite 100. And if you're a returning citizen or a family member of a returning citizen, just know this administration is here to serve you. And my staff is ready to serve you, but you're going to have to take that first step. And we're going to walk with you until you reach the pathway and beyond, because that is the goal of our mayor, and that is the goal of MORCA and every DC agency in the District of Columbia. Thank you all.
2100 Suite 100, Martin Luther King Avenue, 2100 Martin Luther King Suite 100. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Of the people of promise that have been identified, can you say how many have actually agreed to be teamed up with a mentor, and how long has this process been going on? And how did you identify those people?
Well, we worked with, actually, let me ask Director Harley Harper to respond.
Good afternoon. As Director Hunter shared earlier in his words, the people of promise were identified through a problem analysis that was conducted through the National Institute of Criminal Justice Reform in collaboration with MPD and others in the community. There were there's expected to be 500 people identified annually. Right now we're working with a list of 200 and working to identify and connect with and engage all of the people that are on the list currently. You want to add to anything?
Sure. Each of the 200 has been assigned to a director, a pathfinder, and credible contact. And of those 200, we already have contact, we have made contact with approximately half of those 200 individuals.
How did you identify?
She spoke through Director Harley Harper spoke through that criteria.
How many have actually been paired up with mentors?
That's right. So all 200. So the way this process works, you have 200 people of promise. They're all connected to directors of the mayor's cabinet, And then they're also connected with pathfinders and credible contacts. So each of those 200 connections have been made. And of those 200, we've been successful thus far with reaching about half of them. The other half, we're still in the process of forming those connections, making those introductions with the directors and the pathfinders.
They've agreed to this path forward.
That's right. Approximately half of those 100s are now, half of that 100 that I mentioned are on the pathway to be connected to services. Some are already engaged in services, so it's just a matter of keeping them on the right path. Others have indicated, I'm ready, these are my challenges, and we're working with the various directors, the credible contacts, and the pathfinders to remove those barriers to access those services and resources.
I do want to emphasize that it wasn't starting from 0 to 200, as Director Hunter just said. Many people may have already been engaged in some program or service, but we're ensuring that this framework is employed in working with each of them. I also want to emphasize that it's not turning on a light switch or turning off a light switch. That is a process that takes these good people all around me do this work every single day. And yes, we want somebody to say yes to services, but we also know that doesn't mean that we're out of the woods with that person if they've been identified for us to work with. Yes.
Can I ask a bit more about the
Sure.
background of the individual? What kind of offenses are we talking about? Someone who was
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
So thank you for your question. There's a whole range of services. What we know, the problem analysis identify, the goal of a problem analysis is to identify who is the most at risk of being a perpetrator or victim of gun violence in the future. And so what we know is that those persons who have had multiple arrests or who have been victims in the past are the ones who are most likely to be caught in gun violence moving forward. And so those are the persons that we are focused on. And as the mayor said, I want to just really highlight and make sure that we don't minimize for 1 second that you can have a name on a piece of paper, but finding a person, engaging them and connecting them to services and having them to agree to trust in us and to accept the services is really the hard work that doesn't happen, as the mayor said, with just the flick of a switch. That's where the work really takes place, and where the people who are in our communities, who know our communities best, and who know some of the individuals who we are trying to connect with, that's where they come in. And with their similar lived experiences, they're able to make the connection with the people that we're trying to reach.
follow up to that? How do you gauge success? Kind of public.
Yes. So you want to talk about the dashboard? I will.
Well, ultimately, we don't want them to either be a perpetrator or a victim of violence. So that is success. There are a number of steps that are taken. For some, it's a credential. I think Director Carey spoke to the need for a credential to access gainful employment, and gainful employment then can be a tool to better someone's circumstances. For others, it may be more fundamental. We do encounter some people of promise that need more fundamental needs in the beginning, such as a shelter, such as food, clothing, transportation, to be able to access opportunities to improve their lives. So for everyone, it'll look a little differently. There certainly isn't a template, but we're committed to for them being able to improve themselves along this way, along the journey.
Yep, Sam.
Is this limited to DC residents? I mean, when you look at the crime stats in DC, who gets arrested, who gets killed, a significant number of them are from Maryland. Is this limited just to DC folks?
We're working on people who we think will perpetrate crime in the district or be victims of crime in the district, and they're likely DC residents.
But I guess my question is it limited to DC residents? Could it conceivably be somebody who doesn't live in DC?
I guess conceivably, but I think it would be unlikely. We would work with our partners across the region to make sure that people who we think are involved are also getting services in their home jurisdictions.
So there is work with, say, Prince George's County as well?
We work with Prince George's County daily, making sure that we understand the trends going back and forth, the arrests that we make, the accountability systems on our side, the accountability systems on their side. Yes.
You mentioned that there was going to be estimated 500 people annually. How do you narrow that down to 200? And then at what point do you start looking at the next 200?
We look at people can get added to this list every day. So that's how you get to 500 in a year. Yes, let me go here.
Talk a bit, Hunter, I'm Mike with WTOP. Talk a bit about the funding. You said it's obviously part of your proposed budget. So the 200 are paid for now, and you're looking for more money from council?
Well, the addition that we have, and I'll turn to Linda, because with the help of the American Rescue Plan, we were able to make a significant investment in our violence interruption work, over $58 million, from everything from job training to housing pilots to increased pay for some of our subsidized employment programs, to increase spots in our Pathways program. Specifically calling out with this budget proposal a new staff position that we will hire in the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement called Life Coach. We've employed a coaching strategy in other departments, and this is another investment.
Mayor, can I ask you to respond to what happened this past week, where there was a crime spree involving double shooting, as well as the theft of 2 dogs that were taken by their owners at gunpoint, and there was an arrest made. Police said 7 people arrested, and we found out that 4 of those individuals, the adults, were allowed to be released. Prosecutors did not move forward with the charges. What do you make of that? What it says, not only with that, but the fact that so young of an age group were also involved in this crime spree.
Well, we know some of the robbery problem that we've had in the district, whether it's carjacking in this case, involving 2 animals, 2 dogs, 2 pets, have involved young people. And we know that there is frequently an arrest and that the cases don't proceed. I actually need to get a little bit more information from MPD before I can speak about that one or what else they're working on. Be assured that NPD continues to investigate to make sure that any people involved in a robbery using a gun are tops on our list for people to find and remove from the street. Yep.
What we're seeing in the district now, a lot of residents are saying that they just don't feel safe despite the hard work of all the police officers and every government. My question to you is, do you feel the city has a handle on crime right now? That is just...
I do. I feel like there are lots of things that we need to do, including invest in making sure that we have the officers that we need to patrol in all 8 wards and respond to scenes quickly. We need to make sure every part of our ecosystem is up and running in person full time, just like we are. And so we need our prosecutors working double time, our judges working double time, our supervising agencies working double time. Because what people are really frustrated by is when the MPD goes out and does the hard work and makes an arrest and there's no accountability. And the lesson we know that young people, they have to be held accountable just like any person, lest that behavior persists. So there's a lot. But we also need communities working double time. So as we are preparing all of our programs and services, including those at DPR that are engaging kids, keeping them in recreation programs around the city, we need communities to also be investing in making sure that young people are occupied or that people are calling us to say that they need help.
Follow up to that, if I can, on the officers. The argument of hiring more police officers, we've been hearing that since Chief Lanier was in office. Is there any way you're considering anything that Baltimore announced they were going to do in hiring civilians to assist cold cases, nonviolent investigations, and other police?
I'm not familiar with Baltimore's proposal. Yep.
Mayor Bowser, first, welcome back.
Thank
Because
you.
we missed you. You've been back.
You missed
You haven't been here for us to ask questions, so we're glad to see you back. Question about the FOP and the DC Council are fighting over the issue of a basically oversight, and that is a big issue. The FOP has been running ads criticizing the council on crime. The council chairman and the chairman of the council's public safety committee are basically saying this is really about oversight. Police department needs more oversight. So my question is basically, how do you react to the spat that is going on, and what's your position on the council's bill for more oversight?
What bill are you referring to?
Well, apparently it involves a auditor. I don't know.
Oh, they want to have an audit. I don't want to confuse the issues. So if the council wants to have an audit, they still need to approve my budget that adds 347 police officers this fiscal year. So let me be clear. So if they're proposing an audit as a way to sidestep that responsibility, I'm opposed to it. Here's another issue with an audit. You ever been audited? We don't mind being audited, but sometimes it could take a whole team out of MPD to work with the auditors. I mean, 5, 10 analysts, administrators, chief operating officer that is just assigned to the auditors. I can't afford for those people to be occupied with anything but crime fighting right now. So that would be my concern. If we can sit down and figure out what it's going to take in terms of our resources to support an audit, then I won't have a problem with it. But if the auditor expects us to dedicate 20 people to responding to questions in the middle of a crime wave, then we're not going to be supportive of it. But the bottom line is the council cannot sidestep this budget proposal, which says we need 347 new officers hired. We need our whole package approved, which allows us to fight to keep 300 officers. Remember these numbers: hire 347, retain 300. That's how we get our numbers up. And that $30 million package is what we need.
And your reaction to did you see the ad?
I haven't seen the ad. This is a political season, Sam, and that's how it goes.
Last week or 2 weeks ago, when Chief Conti testified in the budget hearing, he gave the council some information which was pretty shocking, in that he said because of the low number of officers now and the high rate of crime, it's an additional 90 seconds just to get to an emergency, on top of the time it normally takes.
But why is that surprising?
Because the loss, it's not surprising. What I'm saying is, what do you say to the citizens when the chief of police is saying, because our force is so small now, that it's taking an additional 90 seconds on top of the normal time it would take just to get help to people? Well,
It stands to reason, doesn't it? If you can't hire for 2 years, you have fewer officers, but you have the same level, or in some cases higher number of calls, it makes sense that it's going to take longer. We've tried to mitigate some of that with the use of overtime, but that's not good enough. We need fresh officers to deploy in their normal course of duty, and that's why we need to get to the number of officers. Now, you've heard us say, this is why we're talking about non-police investments right now. Is more to this than just police, but we need the police that we need. And the chief of police says the number this year that we can safely hire is 347. Yeah.
to circle back to that crime spree. I know you said you still need to be first. I'm not sure if Deputy Mayor here has any update or anything on the investigation and that other dog, you know, that they're still looking for.
Yeah, yeah,
So we don't know any more about the second dog.
that's correct. Yes.
I guess I'll ask one COVID related, just because Philadelphia, there's a legal battle over, but they're trying to bring their indoor mask mandate back. So as we're seeing this subvariant, you know, obviously our levels aren't there. Is there any concern or talk about, you know, us having to go through a similar motion, maybe consider bringing back the indoor mask mandate?
It's not, but I do want to emphasize that everybody should focus on their vaccination status and get vaccinated and boosted. And the other thing that we need to focus on is how well our system is performing in terms of the number of people who are going into hospitals. I don't think that I'll have to refresh myself on the number, but if it's anything, it's very low. So we know that vaccines work, and they work to prevent serious illness. So I really can't emphasize enough to people to get their vaccines, get their booster, and get their children vaccinated. We're still way behind our 5 to 11-year-olds, guys. We need to get our kids vaccinated. And be smart about yourself, your family, and your activities.
Mayor, what were the symptoms and how did when you found out you had COVID? What were the symptoms?
Oh, Sam, I think we've already talked enough about me.
Well, I mean, you're talking about
As
people
you
should get
know,
boosted
I
and
am.
vaccinated.
Well, yeah, I am boosted and vaccinated, and I want everybody to be in the position that I was in, to be boosted and vaccinated, and to get your kids vaccinated. That's important. I know my team talked to you a lot, and you've been around me the last month or so, and then my allergies have been killing me, and they probably still are going to be killing me for a little while. But I also tested positive for COVID. So know your body. Get a test. Stay home if you're sick. Stay home if you're sick. Yeah.
One more question on the crime, what's going on, and the services to people. We've heard complaints on both sides when it comes to maybe activists in the neighborhood who want more help from CSOSA and what they're doing for the community, or officers who are frustrated with the lack of assistance from CSOSA when it comes to tracking some of the people involved in possible crime. In terms of, you know, funding different agencies, is there anything that you're looking at there or with any other agency to assist in this crime fighting?
Okay, you know, CSOSA is a federal agency. And so the thing that we want, we of course participate with CSOSA in our Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. The Deputy Mayor has regular strategy sessions with them. The thing that we've wanted from CSOSA and from Court Social Services, also federal, that supervises our juveniles, is that they are open full-time, in person, that they're doing call-ins, that they have activities, the pre-pandemic activities, because it's really important. And for those listening who don't know, someone who may have been committed, a juvenile committed of a crime, or in their sentence is in the community. They have to be supervised. Likewise, for adults, they may be finishing part of their sentences, or they may be pre-trial, but they're out in the community. They have to be supervised. And so when you've heard me say that the pandemic upended our ecosystem, those activities either weren't happening or they were happening in a virtual setting, which we know is less impactful. So what we need from all of those agencies is to be working double time. Okay, thank you.